What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. If you want to spice up a Pokemon to make them stand out a bit, but you don't want to give them a new evolution or one of the gimmick transformations, the next best thing is probably to create a new signature move. It's great to dole out a special attack that no other Pokemon can do, giving you a niche that can't be replaced. However, it's all too common for a move to start out as signature, only to be more widespread over the next generation or two, which is usually pretty nice actually to see a solid move on some more options. But it's at the cost of the original Pokemon's unique stature. However, every so often in the shake-up from one game to the next, with switching out Pokemon and changing movesets, a once signature move can actually become exclusive again, but on a different Pokemon. This is rare, but it happens on occasion, like with Crafty Shield, except that one isn't actually very good, so let's see what are the best signature move swaps in Pokemon's history. Number 6. Milk Drink. You guys remember this one. It was the signature healing trick of Miltank for decades, and a part of what made the Whitney fight so infamous, because this bulbous bovine could regain up to half of its HP on any given turn. This made sure that Miltank could be viable on the field for way longer than it had any right to be, and it got to keep 10 PP until Gen 9 brought it down to 5. But you could believably see why it would be exclusive on this Pokemon. However, that changed in Gen 6 with the Go-Goat line gaining access to it as well. I guess maybe the reason they went for the goats is because they're both domesticated farm animals, since there is a dedicated Skiddo ranch in Kalos, just like Miltank used to have in Johto, but the loss of other beasts of burden is Go-Goat's gain, since it could now freely drink milk in battle to heal itself, which works really great when paired with Horn Leech and the new grassy terrain that also synergizes with Go-Goat's signature ability. So honestly, Milk Drink was not all that necessary, but it made this grass type a lot more intimidating than Miltank, at least in my eyes, and that might be why they decided Go-Goat was worthy of carrying Milk Drink all alone. Well, that and Miltank wasn't in Scarlet and Violet, but they didn't even have to keep Milk Drink at all, since they're pretty fond of kicking out moves between generations these days, so you would think that a move that could only be used by a single Pokemon out of 1,000 wouldn't be a priority. But apparently Milk Drink is just as integral to Go-Goat's identity as it used to be for Miltank, which might be a bit surprising, but is definitely deserved on this underappreciated Pokemon. Number 5. Arm Thrust. You may not have even known that this attack was even signature at one time, let alone two, but it started life as the party trick of the Hariyama line, which makes sense when you see those massive hands. They were definitely made to cram into people's faces, although you might think that would warrant Force Palm as the signature instead, but Arm Thrust isn't bad either. This is a multi-hit attack that can strike between 2 and 5 times, but it's better than the other common ones like Double Slap or Fury Attack, because Arm Thrust actually has 100% accuracy, so it's not gonna miss of its own accord. Pair that with Hariyama's 120 base attack, and even the 15 power on this move starts to rack up damage when it hits 5 times in one turn. However, after Gen 4, Arm Thrust was put onto other Pokemon as more common, so you can forget that it ever used to be special. But in Sword and Shield, the Pancham line were the only Pokemon that could even learn Arm Thrust that made it through the Dexit barrier. These Kung Fu Pandas were suddenly the lone users of this fighting attack, starting at level 4 no less, so you could have it for the whole game if you wanted. Not that it's the most impressive attack out there, but Pangoro's attack stat is even higher than Hariyama's, so it could definitely put in some work. And it's especially great after the Sturdy change, since Arm Thrust can easily break through any rock types with super effective damage. A great trick for any Pokemon, and I am perfectly fine with Pangoro upstaging Hariyama because it is much cooler in every way. Number 4. Water Shuriken. Much like the last attack, Water Shuriken is a multi-hit move, but this time they throw ninja stars made of water. And as such, this was of course the signature attack of Greninja in X and Y, and it even had unique interactions with the Battle Bond ability, where it would boost the power but ensure it would hit only 3 times instead of the usual range. However, like most moves unique to starters at one time, even Water Shuriken eventually had to share. This time with Excelgor, and this works because this speedy snail is clearly ninja-based as well, so it fits with the theme, even though poor Ninjask doesn't count for some reason. But since they didn't allow Greninja into any game of the 8th generation, Excelgor became the avatar for Water Shuriken by default. And for some reason, I always think that Maractus got this at 1.2, but that was actually Spiky Shield, so I don't know why I think that. But it's crazy to me that one of the so-called most popular Pokémon of all time would stand for having its signature attack stolen in this way. But I guess Excelgor is just so stealthy that it snuck into Galar without anyone noticing, Water Shuriken and all. Number 3. Hidden Power. This one might be cheating a bit because Hidden Power was maybe not truly a signature move on another Pokémon and it's back to the same Pokémon now, but other attacks on this list have been TMs or move tutors as well, so you can't use that against it. Obviously this was the main attack of the Unknown, and by main I mean only attack that they could ever use. As I said, other Pokémon could learn a TM for this in Johto, but Unknown were the only Pokémon that had it in their level up moveset, even though that's a bit of a misnomer because there were no other moves at any level. But obviously the reason Hidden Power was so desirable was because it could turn into any type, providing coverage to Pokémon that otherwise couldn't use that element at all. And the best part was that later on, pretty much every Pokémon could learn Hidden Power as a TM, so it became ubiquitous and basically kind of a signature move for every Pokémon in the way that Return or Protect might be. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but it makes sense to me, as it's the only attack that could let you have any type attached in just about any moveset. But eventually they removed Hidden Power from the game altogether, which was a horrible idea if you ask me, and it was never going to last because that would mean the Unknown could never come back. So when we saw them again in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, the Ancient Alphabet were the only ones with power hidden enough to tap into every type. So I am quite glad that the Unknown finally have something special about them in the games to reflect their reality warping legendary status in the movies and other materials. Number 2. Zing Zap. Since Togedemaru is massively overshadowed by Mimikyu in so many ways, it's actually nice that they bothered giving it a signature move at all, but they came up with Zing Zap. A funny name, for sure, but it's a decent attack that does 80 damage, charging into the foe with powerful electricity, and it even has a 30% chance to flinch. Granted, you get this attack above the level where you would catch a Togedemaru, so it requires a bit of work to unlock, but it's worth it to pair with the Roly-Poly's shockingly high 98 attack stat, not to mention its nearly identical speed. It's a shame that nobody but Sophocles tried using this Steel-type Pikachu clone, because Zing Zap is a great move. However, in transferring over to the Switch, the only other Pokémon seemingly worthy of this outstanding attack was Pincurchin of all things, which sort of clicks when you realize they're both generally spiky balls, and that the Japanese name is Shocking and Prickly, but there are still other electric types that I would consider prickly that have been left out of this. Anyway, in Paldea, Pincurchin still got to keep the move, but Togedemaru was nowhere to be found. This meant that out of sheer dumb luck, the Galarian Pyukumuku got to be the sole user of an objectively good move that no other electric Pokémon can have. And somehow, once again, Pincurchin's attack stat is higher than the Pokémon that had it first. Even if its speed is down on the ocean floor and you can't actually flinch anything, you still need to watch out for it zinging and zapping all over the place. And I suppose marvel at how this paperweight managed to steal a competent move given its skills are so lacking in any other area. Number 1. Fire Lash. You knew this one had to be here. Fire Lash is an incredible attack. It's once again a fully accurate 80 base power physical move just like the last entry, but this time it lowers the target's defense every single time. That means the next time you select this move, it'll do even more damage and it snowballs from there. Fire Lash was invented to be the signature move of Heatmor, mostly because he was just all around embarrassing, to the point that Alola gave him a signature 2 generations later just to make him somewhat viable. But this attack was too good to leave on a mediocre Anteater, so Gen 8 saw both Centiskorch and Salazzle be blessed with Fire Lash. And that's completely fitting because they both have the capacity to flick out tongues of fire in some way, so nobody could complain. But things changed a bit in Scarlet and Violet, with both Heatmor and the Sizzlipede line being absent from the games, even in the DLC, so that left Salazzle at the top of the mountain. Even if Fire Lash was designed for Heatmor, it became so synonymous with Salazzle that wherever she goes, the attack has to come along too. And what's funny is that the Toxic Lizard Pokemon was introduced at the same time as Fire Lash back in Sun and Moon, and you would be forgiven for thinking that this attack was made just for Salazzle, but it took the better part of a decade for them to actually align in that manner. But it is perfectly harmonious. And even if Salazzle's special attack is way higher, the constant defense drops makes Fire Lash a feasible move no matter what. Also, I don't know about you, but I haven't really even missed Heatmor at all. I do kinda miss Centiskorch though. But whenever the Living Radiator does make its comeback, I'm sure that Salazzle would be more than willing to share. Poor Heatmor was overlooked yet again, being used for its signature move and nothing more. But you can't really blame them when Fire Lash is such a fantastic trick, even on resisted targets. So, those are the best signature moves to be shuffled around in Pokémon. Which signature attack would you love to see swapped in the future? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And until next time, stay grounded!